Okay, hey, we're going to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a fun review for you from a newer brand to the channel, Charlie Paris. They are a French brand that was founded back in 2014. And this particular type of watch is an everyday watch. Some key characteristics in design language. You're looking for something that can be worn every day. You're going to want that clean, classic, minimalist design. And of course, something that's sensibly sized. This is their GR Automatic in the smoked blue motif. And it's designed and assembled in France. It's a waterproof automatic watch for men with interchangeable straps, and it's made to withstand the test of time and nature. It does have a slightly vintage look, but with a sporty modern twist. It goes for just over $500 at $522.24 at the time of filming this. And some of you are looking at this thinking, wow, that looks fantastic. And others of you are like, hey, how am I supposed to be able to tell the time when I can't really see the numerals? Guys, let me put a little, check the reflection, right? They reflect. In my studio, it's a dark room with two side lights on the side, on the left and right. So in real life, there will be something for them to reflect off of, and you'll see them. So just to, again, give you guys a look there. See? So before you guys just jump into the comments talking about, oh, what's the point of a watch if it's not legible? It's super legible. It's just the way that shows this, and it also gives a lot of clarity of the dial and how it's going to be represented. So that's the way I have it set up by default. But I think it's great looking. The color combination here, fantastic. I love blue dials. Now that kind of butterscotch, basketball, orange leather isn't really great in terms of my skin tone. So although I think this looks great laying there on my wrist, it's not going to be my favorite setup. But I do have another strap here that I think looks fantastic on here and really dresses this piece up. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, as you can see, this watch is a looker. Check that out. Man, I have to say, Charlie Paris isn't super, on my feed by any means. At least it hasn't been, but this particular watch definitely puts it there. And I mean, it's a looker. Check it out. Side profile. You got a very nice display case back. You can see that Miyota 9000 series movement in there. Really well done. And it's just a handsome piece, guys. Again, now the colorway on my skin tone, not the greatest, but I think I'll get something else to put it on in terms of when we get to the wrist shots. But to tell you a little bit about this piece, it's 39 millimeters in diameter, only 11.3 millimeters thick, 46.5 millimeters lug to lug, stainless steel, brushed and polished. It does have a flat sapphire crystal there with inner AR coating. The bezel is fixed and highly polished. What else can I say about this piece? Screw down, non-screw down crown, also unsigned, but I think it fits the aesthetic. It does have that Miyota 9015, which is great. And it's nice to see the display case back there and that cool etching on the rotor. I think they did a nice job. Let me give it another quick wipe since I did lay it across my wrist there earlier, just so you guys can get a really clear glance at just how nice this is. The brushing, it looks more almost like a machined finish for me. So it's not like super refined, but it does look good. And it has a really cool aesthetic to it with the vertical kind of machine lines there. And then you still do have the little touch of, look at that, the transition. I think that's cool. It kind of defines the lugs. As you can see, that nice high polish kind of bevel, but it's more molded in, but very nice. The hardware here also highly polished, nothing to write home about, but the strap is actually really, really nice. And it feels quite supple and soft, which I like. It has a nice pad to it. The stitching is quite handsome. It's actually a really nice strap, but probably just not for me in terms of the colorway on my skin. But I've worn it and I really enjoyed it. And then once we get into the dial there, guys, let's take a look nice and close. Yeah, you have some nice kind of applied raised indices. You get this blue gradient matte dial, stepped and beveled date at 3 o'clock, and these nicely polished hands. You're getting 10 atmospheres of water resistance, which is great for something you're going to wear every day. 20 millimeter lugs, which makes it a real strap monster. You get, different types of leather straps, nylon strap options. This one, it has an 20 to 18 millimeter taper, and it, of course, unsigned buckle as you saw, but highly polished. And this thing looks really good. Even on my wrist, I think some of you would probably be like, hey, that actually does look good. So we'll get it on there really quick. Instead of cutting away, because we'll cut away for when I put it on something else. But check that out. You can see sits on the wrist really nicely. I love the way the color plays with the dial. Really fantastic. It's just, for me, color wise, this strap, as nice as it looks here on the watch, I probably wouldn't wear it a lot just because it doesn't really suit kind of my aesthetic in terms of the way that I normally dress. But I think it looks absolutely great, and I have a really cool strap here from Artem and their premium sailcloth. They released not too long ago is a blue variant, and I'm thinking the blue with the white stitching will look really great. So let's go ahead and check this out. Look how easy this is. Quick release, wham bam. So out of the way there, and then let's get this here. And if you guys know my channel, you know that Artem makes a very nice premium, one of the best, if not the best in the business, but not cheap by any means. But I have to say, this little $500 watch feels right at home on this glorious blue top of the line. Let me give it a quick wipe here off camera. Top of the line blue sailcloth strap. Check that out. And I'm not huge on blue, but there's something about the way that this hits in terms of kind of the tones and the texture and the way that the light kind of plays. And then, of course, you get the white stitching to go with that beautiful white chapter ring. It's really a very classy and classic look, and I'm really digging it, guys. So with that said, let's actually get this now on wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, really wears quite fantastic. Look how thin and low it sits on the wrist. Look at the turn down on the lugs. Really beautiful. You can see, although if I get very close, it's gonna be, you'll see some lens distortion there. It's gonna look very, very large, but you can see here that it does fit the wrist really nicely. It's quite centered on the wrist. It doesn't feel oversized, and it's already, at 39 millimeter, it's kind of the right size in terms of, something of this style, and I dig that. Although it does have a relatively thin bezel and you're looking straight down on it, because of that chapter ring, it does push things to the center of the dial, so it just plays in a different way. It has a really cool, clean, classic look that you're seeing more and more in kind of those mid-tier and entry luxury style watches out there, like something you might see from Breitling, in terms of this aesthetic. Although I'll say that nobody really owns Fume dials and kind of everyday pieces, but this chapter ring combined with the Fume dial, it just, for me, that's what it recalls kind of the easiest. And that's not a bad comparison to have, because this thing Although it's only like $500, it definitely looks a lot more expensive. And I dig that. I think that's something that a lot of us kind of overlook when we are kind of out there shopping for mechanical watches, because one thing we don't want to get it confused for is the, kind of a simple quartz fashion watch. And with this sweeping seconds hand and of course the beautiful execution here, the nice thing is this won't be mistaken for kind of a cheap, fashion watch. This is a very fashionable watch, but a fashion watch it is not. So with that said, let's actually get it back off the wrist, laid out for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, got it back on the OEM strap for the purists out there, and we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, a Lume beast, this watch absolutely is not, but nice to have some Lume on the hands. Of course, you're gonna have to have some pretty decent orientation on your wrist, but one thing I do like to work in to these Lume shots is low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you could be coming in and out of a building, walking underneath an overhang, or maybe just walking underneath the shade of a tree or spending time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these colors and textures render like in less than optimal lighting, to include some really harsh lighting, like here, very high contrast. And here you typically expose any type of defect within that finishing. Good for Charlie Paris. You can see the luster on the polish is still quite nice, and the brushing, although a little bit pedestrian, I think holds up even in more harsh settings. So very nice from that perspective. And you can see the way that the light plays. Look at that. See how you get that matted style on the dial. Very, very nice. And you can see transitioning from these blues to midnights and pretty much pitch black there, and then that nice chaptering. Actually, he does a nice job of capturing a lot of that light, which is very cool. Quite handsome, in terms of just the dial layout. I think it's really clean and well done. I like that they didn't try to be different just to be different. They set out with something that they knew was gonna look good, and it sure does. So in terms of closing thoughts, guys, on the wrist, it's a great wearable size. In terms of model variants, it's also available in a white dial. In terms of comparable models, I don't typically spend a lot of time in that everyday dress watch space. But I'd say, this watch dips more into the kind of that casual wear area, which ultimately makes it even more versatile than a more purposely dressy watch option. But what I like about this is that it does feel like there's an effort, and it does feel quite dressy and very, very handsome from that perspective. And it doesn't just look kind of generic. I dig it. I think it's very well done. So tough to compare just because this isn't a space I spend too much time in. But for me, guys, bottom line, it's my first experience with Charlie Paris as a brand, and I'm pretty impressed. I mean, it's very handsomely finished. It has a very clean classic design, and all for around $500. The GR Automatic makes me look forward to checking out what else they come out with next. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.